Hello and welcome back with me, Chanchi Gimbap, the political fish, and Kade. So following on from the last video where we did rail nationalisation, click for part one, probably there. I'm back with Kade and we're going to be talking guns. Now, this is a bit of a messy situation, obviously coming on from what happened in Florida. But everybody is talking about a blanket ban on guns. Now, I never thought I would say this, but I really don't. I don't think this is a solution on the issue affecting American society. A friend of mine, I've had many conversations on this issue, and I do respect an American's right, with sound body and mind, to bear arms as expressed in the Constitution. I do, however, feel that regulations on owning guns should be much tighter, and all the online and gun show loopholes need to be closed. I do have some ideas about that could be done, but this is for another discussion. The USA does have a problem with gun violence, but I feel if there wasn't guns, it would be knives or acid or vehicles of some kind. My point being is that a sick, deranged person will find a way to do sick and deranged things. See the van attack near London's Finsbury Park Mosque. As the UK has been finding out all too much in our recent history, we currently have a stabbing epidemic in London, and there was also a spate of acid attacks in London as well. The TLDR is gun controls or a ban would not be a silver bullet. It is a mere sticking plaster over much greater issues in US society. And until these issues are addressed, you can expect more violence, even with said measures in place. Okay, what do you think, Kade?
I don't know. I think a blanket ban is best, to be honest, because
you've gone again.
There's mental health issues, and I know you touched on about knifing, and there's always going to be a different means. But I think that a gun is easy. You can kill loads of people. I mean, look at Las Vegas, easily with a gun, and it's definitely not the same as a knife or acid. And a car, obviously, a car is going to be tricky to get to masses of people because obviously you can put up barriers and things like that. So yeah, I just don't think that putting in more regulation, people can slip through the net. It's about making sure that these guns are not accessible to anyone, because we know that people will get through regardless. Yes, obviously a blanket ban is going to take years. It's going to take years of work to get them back and to get them obviously out of people's hands, and then obviously it's going to take years to change perceptions of some people, because I know obviously a lot of Americans, I'm not sure in the statistics of how many people support it, but it's going to be tricky to get their their mindset change. But they've got to try. They've got to just get rid of the guns. Just don't give the means, because we know that there is going to be loopholes. You're never going to fix the loopholes, and there's always going to be people that are going to be able to get these guns from people if there's not tough enough law, which is, for me, to be the toughest, is to ban all weapons. And we've seen it works in other countries, here, Australia, I think Japan as well. So, it works. It really works. And we still have we have mental health here, but you don't see the level of mass shooting, which is the word here. Yes, we have crime, but the mass shooting of children is the most heartbreaking, and that should be addressed first. We don't have that here. And
what I would address in that is how do you go about changing public perception on something that they see as their right to have this. The other thing is, how do you peacefully remove people from their guns? Right. So those are two massive areas. I mean, with regards to people surrendering their guns, I think that could be a possibility, have like a gun amnesty. But of course, there is going to be a significant chunk of the population that are just going to say, no, you can't have my guns. Changing public perception, especially when they're so ingrained into American society. It I can't see it ever happening. By the way, not with the control that the NRA has on media and the White House. Now,
oh, I'm not saying you know it's going to happen. I'm just saying that is what I do. I'd support a blanket ban, and yeah, you know, perception is going to take probably, you know, decades. It's clearly going to take decades, and more people and more kids are going to have to die. But you know, if it gets to a point, and you know, in the future, if that is in someone's campaign in the future presidential elections, then that is you'll have to go, and you'll have to forcibly remove guns from these people, because it is saving lives, and you'll have to do that. You know, it's not going to be pretty, but you know, if you know, if the majority of Americans want that, that'll have to happen. So you know, I just think that this regulation argument, it doesn't work. We'll see it. It will happen, because they won't put a blanket ban. It'll happen, and school shootings will still happen all of the time. And when you see this horrific, you know, it's kids dying every year, hundreds of kids dying. You know, you think, why isn't there just a why can't all Americans see that you just need to ban all of these weapons? Why does anybody need a weapon, you know, an assault rifle? Why?
Oh, yeah.
Why does anyone need
a
mass killing machine?
I don't
even a pistol. Obviously, at the moment, people have them because other people have guns. But if we do put a blanket ban, it will stop that need to having any weapons at all. And it should be, you know, revoked, and there for people, you know, like for trained police officers and things like that, and even removing guns from all police officers. I think that's a bad idea. So we've seen the effects of guns and what they can do, not just that, but also in authorities' hands. You know, even arming every single policeman. Obviously they need to at the moment, because, you know, the guns are so widespread, but you know, we've seen things that can happen where, you know, police officers can shoot people accidentally, they can shoot the wrong person, and things like that. So I think a blanket ban is the only way to go towards. But and talking about the nationalization things, don't just skip over something because it's hard to do. You got to keep driving and driving and driving for it, because that's the best way. And always, a lot of the time, the best thing to do is not always the easiest way to do. So I think people need to consider that with everything.
Well, for a Tory on some subjects, you're very interventionist.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Tell me a Tory that supports gun that wouldn't want a blanket ban. You know, I know a lot of people that are Tory and support a blanket ban. I don't think that's any sort of.
Sure.
I think that's a cultural thing more than anything.
Let me go deeper into why I don't support a blanket ban. Now, the first thing you can do, which can help, is actually drown the whole thing in bureaucracy. I mean, it's harder to get a driving license in the UK than it is to buy a gun in the USA. Now, there's something quite perverse about that, I think. So, you know, you can drown the whole thing in bureaucracy and just make it very, very hard. I think people should have, you know, their brain looked over by a shrink before you can buy a gun. You know, they should have to take courses in gun safety. I think they should be in a lockbox or a safe. You know, all these things, I think they should be brought in. You know, closing the loopholes would be one of the easiest things to do. Now, my view on guns and why there shouldn't be a blanket ban is, now we get earthquakes here in South Korea, so it means that it's quite a recent thing, and to be honest, they're scary things, and it's only recently that they've started having them. Now, because of that, I've turned into a little bit of a prepper, and you know, if the poo hits the fan, like in South Korea, and you know, we have no power for indefinitely, or we have to evacuate, or something like that, or we have to bug in, you know, having a gun in the house might actually be quite a good thing, so long as, you know, I don't go crazy, or, you know, and it is kept in a lockbox, you know, for just to protect my house and what we have here. Do you understand that? So, like, you know,
understand that in your life that something may happen. I don't understand that from this perspective, my perspective in this country. I don't understand that whole, you know, protecting yourself, because if you do have a blanket ban, like I said, going towards that, you won't need weapons because they won't be readily available for people. And obviously, again, it's not going to happen overnight. There's still going to be millions of firearms, even when, you know, from the first ban. And but it needs to be, you need to start going somewhere, because it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. More people have firearms, and that's that. And again, with regulation, you look at how many firearms are currently out there. Even with regulation, it's still going to be tough to get them back, and we know that. And still, people are not going to turn them forward. And again, that could be something against the ban. So it's just, I just think that a blanket ban is easier for everyone, in the sense that you haven't got to go through all these regulations that could take ages, and people have still got those guns without us knowing. You just say, no, they're going, that's it. And,
yeah,
and it's easier to maintain and easier to control in that sense.
I just don't see it as being realistic, to be honest. I honestly, you can say put a blanket ban on them now, right? But there will still be a large amount of guns in circulation. And how you would then get the guns from the people, I just think is completely unrealistic. That just wouldn't happen. You know, a lot of people will be shot in trying to do it. And in trying to save lives, you're actually going to cost quite a lot.
But I think, yeah, people may die because of that, you know, but it's the only way in which you're going to get to a gun-free future, where we'll see hardly any gun death. So I think, I know it sounds harsh, but I think that's a price to pay for future generations, where they won't have that problem anymore. So it's something that's got to be done. It's one of those things, you know, it's getting worse and worse. And the thing is, if they don't do anything now, that purge is going to be even higher if they let it get any worse. And they will let it get worse, and it will get even. I don't know though what will stop these people that support guns. I just don't know what will need to happen. And that's why I've always said that I would love, again, might sound horrible, for them to be in a shooting, not necessarily get shot, but to experience that, because I think then they'd feel a sense of empathy, sympathy for the people that are actually there, and just understand what these weapons can do, and what sort of situations they create in a civil society in 2018 that they supposedly have. So, you know, that, you know, there is going to be a purge, but that's something you've got to do. You know, it's getting those away from people so that it will stop copious amounts of deaths going forward. I think you'd save more lives doing that.
Yeah, you are definitely right on a couple of things there. Something does need to change quite drastically, because it's just getting stupid, and it's just like, wake up, do something about this. Considering what's happened, and the kind of public perception on guns hasn't changed. Now, a friend of mine actually made the point that you know, it's the older people that tend to like the guns rules and constitution and everything else. And as soon as those people die out, you have the younger people now that are getting older that will still carry that view that you know, there should be a blanket ban. So it could take about, you know, a generation before it will even be looked at seriously in the White House. So I think that's quite an interesting point, and I do hope for something to change. Yeah, that nobody needs an AR-15, to be honest, mate. You know, handguns, you know, I don't know. See, I
don't think you need a handgun, to be honest. You know, I just don't. Yeah. I mean, if we look at in this country, if someone runs towards you with a knife, the chances are even if you get stabbed, you're more likely to survive than if you were shot. And also, you can see it coming. If someone, and this links to an argument that was made by, I think, someone on Twitter about, you know, arming teachers. If a gunman storms a classroom and goes bang, 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 the teacher's down before it's even realised what's happening. So the speed and just how severe a gun can be.
Yeah, the efficiency of guns is crazy.
Being an armed teacher makes nothing, because a surprise attack, nothing's going to happen. You know, it's not going to help. And potentially more people can die because there's more available guns. More students might get caught in the crossfire. So I think it's just a messy situation. If that was what we saw in Florida, it'd be even worse.
Hi Jack James, watching the stream. He makes a point saying it's easier to have a blanket ban in the UK purely because of landmass, and we have a natural border circling the country. In the US, not so easy. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the logistics in the UK and just the sheer size of the country, is, you know, it would be very, very difficult. And of course they have, it's a republic, you know, so they have 50 different governments essentially, and they all have their own separate laws when it comes to gun control and you know, gun legislation. So yeah, it would be very, very difficult to have every state
well, if it's in the
Constitution
was changed, though, that would be blanket across all states, because surely they follow the same constitution. So it'd be all, if that was changed, it'd be changed universally across the whole of America, I'm gathering. But I'm not that caught up on American politics, so I'm not too sure. But yeah, so I suppose it would be difficult. It would be tougher. But as I said, it's only going to get worse. There's going to be more available. You know, you've got to do something about it. I mean, okay, they've got a bordering landmass. You know, if you look at places like Japan, obviously they're the same as us. They haven't got, I'm just trying to think now. Japan, who was the other countries that banned it? Australia, I suppose. Actually, I suppose that's a good argument then, that they are an island. But I don't know. I think you've got to try and you've got to do something. Here. Oh, I suppose in Korea then. But then again,
you know, South Korea is essentially an island. So
yeah, because you've got North Korea. So I was just thinking, but I suppose that argument does work. But I don't know. I don't agree with just because this is this, we shouldn't do it. And that's the whole point with everything and my whole outlook. Just because something's difficult, don't just say we can't do it, because you can do it. And there's clearly an agenda behind people that say that, because they clearly don't want a blanket ban if there's a limit to something. You know, I know you've got to be realistic about things, but you've got to at least give it a go, because it's only going to get worse.
I'm with you. Jack James does kind of move on further. Plus, as someone who has actually lived in the US, I can understand why some people choose to have guns. If you're being attacked in your homes, there's a high chance the cops won't reach you in time. I think it's 1 cop per 80,000 citizens over a large landmass. So again, there's a good point there.
I mean, there is a good point, but I think, you know, if we do get to a place where it's a gun-free, and obviously it's never going to be completely gun-free, it's not even gun-free here, then that is going to be unlikely unless people will die as a result of not having guns. More people die because they have guns than if they didn't, and I'm sure numbers would drop dramatically if there was that blanket ban and hardly anyone had guns. So then again, even though the police can get there quicker.
This brings me back to one of the points that I made, and you know, sick, deranged people will find a way of doing sick and deranged things, and there is a rise of sick and deranged people in the UK as well as the US, which we can talk about maybe in part 3. But it's you know, and this is one of the factors of inequality, or large gap of inequity, and you know, you do need to sort out the problems they have with mental health before anything can actually work when it comes to gun control or you know, acid control or you know, people driving cars into people. You know, it really is a savage situation.
But I don't like that argument that they'll just find something else, because I don't know how you could argue against. It's easier and quicker to kill masses of people with a weapon, with a gun, sorry, than it is with a car. Obviously, if you could drive into a crowd with a knife, do you know what I mean? With an acid, which not technically will kill anyone, you know, not always, you know, the majority of the time they do survive. So I don't like gun. The whole idea is a gun is made as a killing machine. There's no other. A gun is made to kill people. Okay, what other reason do you need a gun for? To kill someone. Cars used to drive. So I don't like that argument. Not saying that you fully support it. I'm just saying, you know,
I don't.
That argument, that said argument, I don't think that can be used to defend it when a gun is a killing machine and a car is just to drive. You know, so if someone's got a gun,
my point being is, like, the moment you take away people's guns, don't expect the violence to stop. Yeah. Yes, a gun is horribly efficient at killing people, but you know, violence will still happen. It will just happen in different ways. You have to sort out the inequity in people's lives, and you have to sort out the mental health issues.
It will still happen in violence. But the same can be said that violence will happen, but will so many lives be lost? will a mass people, will schools will people go into schools? Because if security is tougher, do we see a man go into a school at the moment in the UK with a knife and kill so-and-so children? Do we see that? Because it's hard. Doors are locked. If you haven't got a knife, it's hard to get in. If you've got, there's those levels of security that without that gun, it's really hard. It's harder than you dream. So, yeah, I think that argument about that is, I just don't know. That doesn't work for me.
Fair enough. Well, it doesn't have to really. Okay, so going back to what Jack James is saying, I agree with you, Kade. But I think there are a number of steps you need to go through before you can even look at a blanket ban in the US. And of course, that alludes to what I was saying earlier about, there are steps to these things. And, mental health crisis is one of them in the USA, mass inequity and all sorts of social economic factors come in there. I think why people are feeling.
I understand that, and that's another. I think I'm quite ignorant in that sense, because I always forget that obviously the healthcare service is shocking, and that's why when you see different people slating our National Health Service when you think it's one of the best in the world, it kind of they've got to have a bit of perspective as something like America, which is so influential. Don't know, it could be reducing a bit now, and so powerful, and it's seen as this great country where they have these silly problems that obviously do need to address. So I'm not saying that is that's perfect. That sounds perfect. But what I'm saying is, if you take away guns, you will see a reduction in deaths completely. Yes, you might see violent crime continue, but will we see the level of deaths and mass killings? No, we won't. And that even if you ban one state, or that you'll see that reduce. And I'm saying it's not going to be easy, and yes, it will take decades, because yes, if guns won't be gone that as soon as you put that ban in. It's not. That's an ideal world would, but it's not going to happen. It's going to take work. It's going to take money and costs. And will the government want to do that? And will people want that? I don't know. But that's what I'd want to see in America, for the sake of people's children,
Yeah, sure. Brilliant. Because I'm kind of a new kind of visitor to this side of the fence, it's kind of, I find it very difficult to disagree with you, basically. I think you are right. How it'll be done is very, very difficult. But let's leave it there. Thank you very much, Kade, for that.
Can I just add there as well? Just to add, just saying, like I said, I would love a ban, but even if they could just, like I said, if they could regulate more, which I don't believe would stop it, it might reduce it. Even just saying that people just have handguns, then I think that would help. As long if they're taking that step, and maybe, just maybe, the further we regulate, we can get so far that we can regulate, and so it's so minuscule, so that then we can just do a ban like that. Maybe that will be easier. Putting more regulations, more restrictions in for more people, different kinds of people, what they can have, different kinds of people who can have going that step might be the direction. Instead of just a blanket ban straight away. Maybe that's the route to a blanket ban.
Yeah.
To a complete ban.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Kade. Everybody stay where you are. We're going to have a bit of a free-for-all for the last 10 minutes. Join us for part 3 after this. Oh, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave your comments down below, all that groovy stuff. Again, thank you very much, Kade, and we'll be back in a moment.